Check this out.
Namani. Gaya, Gana, Nari, Gadlabati, Waricha, Gadlo Tigni Tananyanga, Gana Miniata, Gadlo Tigni, Portiata, Gana Miniata. Greetings, everybody. Namani? It means, are you good? Namani? And you can say, Mani, yes, I am. Music to my ears. That was the language of the land upon which we sit, the language of the Ghana. We sit on the sacred land of the Ghana people. In this place today we know as Adelaide, or as we have known it for centuries, for eons. This place we know as Tandanyanga, the story place of the big red kangaroo, a very special site for Ghana and many other of our neighbouring Aboriginal nations. We sit here on the banks of Garawirapari, we know as the Torrens, the Red Gum River, across from a very special site. They're the Adelaide Oval, the sacred site of the crow. But it's also a special place. It's a place where Ghana people would live prior to colonisation, all along this place here, along the banks. A place over here that is a ceremonial ground, a polity ground, a place of sacred ceremony also. We have a word, Banbamandalya, which talks about our people coming together in this place here. This place here where many years ago Mulawita Burka said, come on, Colonel Light, I'll show you the best place to build the best city in the world. And as we know today, he did pick the best camping site in the country. Because we know it was the best camping site because our people camped there. We had the ceremonial grounds. The congregations would gather with the Nudgery, the Nukurunu, the Narunga, come here to talk about issues, just like Parliament House here, talk about issues of the area, but also to come together to celebrate for sacred ceremony, for social ceremony, to dance, to sing. And this is what this is all about. I couldn't think of a much more appropriate place to have the festival theatre here on a place that has been used for dance, song and music for thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. And whenever I think of this place, I think of a visionary many, many years ago who sort of put this festival on the map. He was a very well-spoken man. He had a great radio voice. And he had a pink safari suit. And those long white socks that are so endearing to that time of our history. We think about how it's travelled along. And I very much look forward to seeing what Rachel and is going to put in for this, to Neil to add their special touch. We see different touches as we go along. And this promises to be the best of all with Rachel and Neil, the deadly duo who will put this season together to promise something more exciting, something stimulating, something exciting and emotional for all of us, just as theatre should be exciting and emotional. Everybody, welcome to the land of the Ghana. Welcome to the opening of the Adelaide Festival. Have a great season.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, William, and thank you, Uncle Stevie, for that warm welcome to country. The Honourable Jay Weatherall, MP, Premier of South Australia, Peter Luca, Executive Director, Arts SA, and representatives of funding bodies, presenting partners and sponsors, Judy Potter, Chair and members of the Adelaide Festival Board, my incredible festival team, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the launch of the 2017 Adelaide Festival program. The Adelaide Festival acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Ghana people living today. The launch of every festival program is a big occasion, and this year marks a special year for being the first festival under the artistic directorship of Neil Armfield and Rachel Healy. Rachel and Neil have come to the festival with the aim of celebrating all the things that have made the Adelaide Festival what it is today, Australia's preeminent multi-arts festival, and we'll hear from them in a few moments. But first, I'll not ask you to turn your phones off, rather to put them on silent and tweet away on hashtag ADLFEST. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Premier of South Australia, the Honourable Jay Weatherill.
Well, thank you, Sandy, and can I also begin by thanking Uncle Stevie Goldsmith for his welcome to country. And William Barton for that fantastic performance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a terrific week for our city and state. We've witnessed a series of announcements reinforcing Adelaide's status as a must-see place for tourists and as a home for major events. And today we're taking things a step further with news of the most exciting Adelaide festival in years. In its flair and ambition, in its grand scale, the program about to be revealed is a reflection of bold, fresh leadership. And that leadership, of course, comes from Neil Armfield and Rachel Healy, who enjoy international standing in the arts and are making their debut as joint directors. Great festivals should inspire and excite us and encourage us to reach for the stars, and I believe what we're about to unveil today will do just that. They've put together 17 days of world-class performances. These include Neil's production of The Secret River, recast from the novel by Andrew Bovell and performed in the evocative setting of the Anstey Hill Quarry. The 31-event program will also feature appearances by the wonderful Miriam Margolyes and the luminous Kate Blanchett. And of course it will run alongside the incomparable WOMADelaide and Adelaide Writers' Week, those much-loved features of our festival season. We in the State Government are pleased and indeed proud to be backing the festival. And we're happy to have provided a bit of additional support to secure something which was a really bold ambition of the directors, the flagship event. That, of course, is Australian premiere of Soul, an opera directed by a long-standing festival protagonist, Barry Kosky. Soul is attracting a lot of positive attention. It's really encouraging that almost 40% of the tickets already sold for its 4 performances are in the hands of people who will come to Adelaide from interstate, which will add to the buzz and excitement of this festival season. Along these same lines, it's worth noting that although tickets have been on sale for only 3 shows until today, the festival is already 1/3 of the way to reaching its box office target. So I'm confident that the 2017 program will be an extraordinary success and will build on the achievements of our most recent festival. And the 2016 festival grossed an impressive $78.3 million, a remarkable increase of 22% in 2 years. It recorded a 7% rise in visitors to our state. 30% of those visitors were first-time attendees, which certainly bodes well for the future of our festival. I know that next year's festival will add to the now permanent buzz that pervades our city centre. It's an atmosphere generated in large part by our bevy of new small bars, our superb restaurants, our growing laneway vibe, our live music scene, and the ongoing transformation of the very place we're in at the moment, the Riverbank Precinct. In broader terms, the festival will contribute to the strength of our tourism sector, a sector that injects about $6 billion to the state's economy annually and has created 4,000 jobs in the past 2 years. That's the fastest growing tourism sector anywhere in the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Adelaide Festival of Arts is the jewel in the crown in our thriving festival scene, a unique and inseparable part of South Australia's identity. I predict that it will shine even more brightly under the collective creative leadership of Neil Armfield and Rachel Healy. While I've talked a bit about the economics of our visitor economy, in a real sense, the most profound contribution that our festival makes is to expand what we imagine to be possible for ourselves at an individual level, but collectively for our community. I have every expectation that this festival, with its extraordinary ambition, will do that for us in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to seeing you around town come March next year as Adelaide once again hosts one of the world's great arts festivals.
Thank you, Premier. The festival has a strong commitment to access, and it is recognised nationally as a leader in ensuring disability access and inclusion. Other festivals around Australia look to the Adelaide Festival as a benchmark for accessibility. The 2017 program will once again further extend our award-winning initiatives. And at this point, I'd just like to thank our Auslan interpreters, Amber and Jade, for supporting us today. Mrs. Thank you. But of course, nothing that we're talking about today could happen if it wasn't for the support of the Government of South Australia through Arts South Australia, the South Australian Tourism Commission, the Adelaide City Council, and in 2017 we're also supported by Renewal SA and the Adelaide Riverbank Authority. I wish to acknowledge the importance of corporate investment in festivals and the arts, and thank the 26 corporate partners of the Adelaide Festival, many of whom have supported us over many years. Our major partners, Emirates, Channel 9, The Advertiser and the ABC. Our presenting partners, Penfolds, SA Power Networks, Coopers, the State Opera of South Australia, the Adelaide Festival Centre, Lucesco and RAA. Partners, PIMS, Print Solutions, Mount Barker Council, Chibo Expresso, Walford and Hughes Limousines. And last but not least, our 10 supporting partners, Mount Franklin, Hillsider, Bass, Visualcom, Show Group, City of Tea Tree Gully, Avantgarde, APN Outdoor, Is Design and Digital, and Adelaide BMW. Thank you to all our corporate supporters for getting behind the Festival and the Arts. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce the Chair of the Board of the Adelaide Festival Corporation, Judy Potter.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you, the Honourable Jay Weatherall, MP, Premier of South Australia, for his words, and also welcome also representatives of funding bodies, presenting partners, sponsors and benefactors. I also welcome fellow board members of the festival, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Again, I'd like to just thank the Premier for his incredible support, and also acknowledge the Minister for the Arts, the Honourable Jack Snelling MP, who is a fantastic advocate for the festival and for the arts in South Australia. It's a great privilege, and this is my first festival and responsibility to be the chair of the Adelaide Festival, an iconic South Australian event. I acknowledge my fellow board members who are here today. We are custodians, so the board as custodians and I are committed to build on the great legacy of the festival. It's been an exciting year working with our artistic directors, Rachel Healy and Neil Armfield, who have developed the first of their first 3 Adelaide programs, festival programs, which you're going to hear this morning. The program that they're announcing, I strongly believe, affirms the Adelaide Festival as Australia's preeminent international festival, which will continue to build on the economic benefit which the Premier referred to, and it's also challenge and stimulate and bring to South Australia a fantastic array of events and programs. The impact goes beyond the dollars. Of the 20,000 approximately people who visited South Australia for the festival in 2016, they considered events like the festival to be important in profiling both the city and the state, and we have seen this reflected in the Lonely Planets announcing the top 5 regions. We're in the top 5 regions. We are here Australia's festival city, and we are ensuring that we retain this position and build on it. This was affirmed with the signing this year of a Memorandum of Understanding with the Edinburgh International Festival. So it's really, we're just building and we're going to go from strength to strength. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the CEO, Sandy Verschaw, and the incredible, amazing, hard-working festival team. Sandy has already mentioned our key government and corporate supporters, and I want to add my thanks to her, to all of you for your incredible support. And also to thank all the others who support the festival by investing directly in it. and into the artistic vision of Neil and Rachel that they're going to be sharing this morning. The support of foundations is of the utmost importance to the arts, and I acknowledge the generous support of MME Electrical, the Klein Family Foundation and the Sydney Myer Fund. I also acknowledge the Chairman's Circle, a unique group of leading Adelaide Festival supporters whose influence and support has an immediate and measurable impact on the festival's program each year. As a collective, the Chairman's Circle's annual investment directly supports one prestigious international work in the festival program. This year, the work is Barry Kosky's Saul, and I'd particularly like to thank Paula, Leslie and Michael for guiding and leading and bringing so much of the Chairman's Circle and support to the festival. Thank you. A number of individuals have also provided generous gifts to projects during the festival, including the Secret River Donor Circle and the supporters of our wonderful festival club, the Palais Grandes, Jeffrey Rush and Neil Belnaves. This year, we launched our benefactor program, a fully tax-deductible philanthropic giving program which aligns donor engagement with specific outcomes of interest such as Indigenous work, access and education, commissioning of new works, or in more traditional genres such as theatre, opera, dance, concerts, visual arts. This approach has seen philanthropic giving increase by 100% for the 2017 festival. And I want to acknowledge the 60+ people behind the Benefactors program and some who have made commitments of over multi-years. I thank you. Your love for the arts and for the festival is greatly appreciated. Philanthropic giving is a lifeline for the arts, and if you've not joined our Benefactor program, you're still welcome. I hope you will. The depth of the program we're sharing with you this morning requires a lot of love. This is the support, along with the government and corporate support, which makes it possible for the Adelaide Festival to continue its proud legacy of strong, unique programming that makes it Australia's preeminent international arts festival. Our artistic directors, Rachel and Neil, bring enormous experience, expertise and passion to their role, and we're very fortunate to have them here. It's my privilege to be able to be part of the team working with them, and I now would like to welcome them to stage to share with you the 2017 Adelaide Festival program.
Thank you very much, Judy. I arrived slightly late last night and I missed the rehearsal for this event, which meant that Rachel was able to take control of this grey box on our lectern here. She has the go button. She asked me if I had any jokes today. I said, I'm approaching it more with a sense of humour rather than actual jokes. And Mark Pennington, our technical director, said, how about two artistic directors walk into a bar? And he said, yeah, it's good you laughed because there's no punchline.
So it turns out you don't have any jokes, Mark has the jokes.
Yeah. Okay. At last, the moment is here, and we can share with you what we've, as a whole organisation, have been planning and balancing and budgeting and arguing and negotiating and dreaming, not necessarily in that order, for the last 18 months. The arts gives shape and meaning to our lives. They allow us to glimpse what is possible in ourselves and in our world. They give contour, texture, reflection. By looking at the past, we understand our present, we shape our future, but most of all, they give us play.
We wanted our first Adelaide Festival to amplify what a major international arts festival does best. It brings audiences together with the most exhilarating and original artists of our generation and present extraordinary events in new and unique creative contexts, be it in the natural cathedral of a disused quarry, a palais floating on the riverbank, the interiors of a city hotel, inside a planetarium, or in a chamber music venue surrounded by the Mount Barker bushland. Since 1960, the Adelaide Festival has built its international reputation on the extraordinary quality and range of the artists that visited and performed in the city, and the ambition and scale of its signature events. It's a proud tradition, but we think it's also the hallmarks of a great future. Friends, let's begin.
Our own Barry Kosky, beavering away in Berlin, has achieved a miracle. He has made opera once again a great popular form, without making it dumb or sentimental or slick. On the contrary, by making it tough and hilarious and musically exquisite. His production of Saul is the stuff of dreams.
Since our launch in August, we've had an incredible response from audiences to this work. Tickets have been flying out the door, and as the Premier mentioned, 40% of the sales are to interstate and overseas visitors who are travelling to Adelaide for the show. Seriously, do not delay in securing your tickets. The lack of rehearsal, I think, is beginning to show.
There'll be more. There'll be more.
Neil and I have always had an affection for a great festival club. Robin Archer's Squeeze Box, Barry Kosky's Red Square, David Sefton's Lola's Pergola. They've all had their own particular personality and have always been so much more than a watering hole. A great festival club is a place to meet before and after the show, to compare notes, to meet friends, to mingle with artists, and to get the inside news of what's happening in the festival. So the challenge for us was not whether we would have a festival hub, but the kind of place we wanted it to be. We wanted to create a space where families would be comfortable to come and picnic, a place which would be opening morning, noon and night, well into the night, a space which was comfortable and inviting and really used the great assets of Adelaide and its festival precincts.
Neil speaks now. We wanted somewhere amazing, something that kids would remember seeing at age 6 or 7 for the rest of their lives. Associate artist Bobby Cousins said we needed a structure, a building, something architectural maybe of our own. Associate artist Gil Minervini said there was a floating palais de danse at the height of the Roaring Twenties, floating on the Torrens, moored just off the left bank at the Paris end of King William Street. There, the glamorous and adventurous pleasure seekers of the City of Light danced the nights away in the heady days between the wars. The brainchild of flamboyant Adelaide entrepreneur Barton Teasdale Smith was the floating palais. This is very funny. Rachel did this bit with a voice thing on her phone. And that, instead of Barton Teasdale Smith, it's entrepreneur but on Teasdale Smith. The floating palais of the 20s was the social hub of Adelaide. It only lasted for 4 years, but in its era it housed the best parties, a soda fountain, dancing competitions. The winner danced with a cobra for 6 hours, and the infamous, I said it was a python on radio this morning, and the infamous fig leaf ball. We wondered if it would be possible to create a contemporary version of the floating palais, a new floating dance hall and social hub for the people of Adelaide in 2017. So after months of hard work, and I'll acknowledge a few more to come, our ideas are becoming a reality. Floating on the riverbank each night will be this beautiful new venue surrounded by a Palais precinct which will provide spaces for family picnics, long lunches and late-night suppers. Gil Menavini is the food and wine curator who comes to the Adelaide Festival following her success with Dark Mofo Winterfeast. She's working with food consultant Duncan Velgamod to celebrate the stars of the city's culinary heritage, including Christine Manfield, Chong Lu and Kath Kerry. We're going to announce the full program in January next year, as well as our special opening night event in the precinct. But we can promise you now that it will all be okay. Okay, cons of opportunities. I'm glad I gave them the context for this piece of paper. Okay, cons of opportunities to experience the Palais from papers and coffee in the morning to drinks after work with Australia's favourite media commentators and writers to late night drinking, dancing and DJs.
If a significant new Australian theatre is judged by standing ovations across the country, 5-star reviews in every capital city, Helpman Awards or sold-out houses everywhere, there is no doubt that the Sydney Theatre Company's production of The Secret River tops the list. It has played seasons across Australia, and Adelaide is the remaining city which has not seen this extraordinary work. Adapted by Andrew Bevell from the award-winning novel of Kate Grenville and directed by Neil.
What was I saying about arguing? I was in two minds whether I should be directing in the festival at all, but Adelaide hadn't seen Secret River, and I thought every Australian should see this story. And yes, as a nice big touring production, it would fit beautifully into the Playhouse. Then Fergus Linehan, Artistic Director of the Edinburgh Festival, got in Rachel's ear. "The quarry," he whispered. And that was that. So now we're remaking it for the quarry. This is a story about the Darug people who live on the banks of Dirrambin, the Hawkesbury River, north of Sydney. But as we're telling this story on Kaurna land, many of our Darug family will be Kaurna actors, led by the great Stevie Goldsmith as Yalamundi, who welcomed us to country today. It's a story that many of us know, many of us need to know. But it is also, while it enacts a great tragedy, it's a story that what I love most about is this sense of possibility, that there was a moment in our history where a different future was possible. This is particularly alive in the relationships in the production between the kids, the young Thornhill kids and the young Darug kids, and their sense of play on the stage, their sense of leaving behind the kind of history that has formed the attitudes of the Thornhills and the white settlers that came to this country. Leaving behind that history, they find each other as people, and a different future we know was possible. The Schaubude Berlin is one of the great theatre companies of the world. This will be the third production directed by Thomas Ostermeyer to be welcomed by Adelaide after his Nora in 2006 and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in 2008. This production is built around the staggering central performance of Lars Eidinger, this fleshy, outrageous monster who charms his way to the top. I saw it in Berlin a year ago and again recently in Edinburgh, and it just knocks you flat. Like everyone in the play, you're putty in the hands of this magnificent actor.
Another close my name to put him. Not all hands got a top for the great. It's insane, we're always to play together.
this is not tepid theatre. It's, I saw it last year and it's just extraordinary. It's about power and rage and control and jealousy and strategy and revenge. So for everyone who works in a large organisation, you'll be right at home. Backstories. Many of you will be familiar with the work of theatre maker William Yang, who has spent a lifetime as a photographer and more than 35 years creating unique performance pieces using his cache of photographs to help weave together each work's autobiographical narrative. His distinctive style has kept him in demand in Australian and international festivals, but since teaming up with Annette Chounois, they have turned their attention to telling the stories of other Asian Australians. William and Annette came to us and told us that they were interested in working with well-known South Australians with Asian heritage to help tell their stories and their experiences here. We are pleased to announce that this 6-show series will share the stories of 3 remarkable South Australians whose Asian heritage and life in South Australia has shaped who they are. Our 3 participants are Malaysian-born chef and restaurateur Chong Lu, who's in the back row on the far right of this family photo, Razak Muhammad of infamous Rundle Street icon Miss Gladys Sim Choon, and Moya Dodd, born to a Chinese mother and Anglo father, spent a childhood in Woodville, and after a career as an elite athlete in women's soccer, is now running for re-election to the Executive Committee of FIFA and was listed by Sportet as one of the 10 most powerful female leaders in world sport. The 3 will open their hearts, their lives, and their private photo collections over 6 intimate evenings in the Space Theatre. Betroffenheit is one of those untranslatable German words. Some definitions describe it as being touched in a way to form a bruise. Others see it as a kind of sadness. In this instance, Betroffenheit means the experience of trauma, a physical, emotional, and psychic tearing apart, the experience of living inside something that cannot be fully digested, something that is too terrible to fully comprehend. Jonathan Young, the co-creator and central performer of this work, lived through his own Betroffenheit. Jonathan was a celebrated Canadian theatre maker married to another well-known theatre artist of equal distinction. They had one 12-year-old daughter. One weekend, Jonathan and his wife and daughter joined his wife's sister and her husband and children for a short holiday in 2 adjoining holiday cabins in the woods. All the children slept in one cabin and all the adults slept next door. That night, Jonathan woke at 3 a.m. because he thought he heard a noise. He ran downstairs and discovered the house with the children inside had burnt to the ground and all the kids had been killed. This, of course, immediately made news all over the country, and Jonathan spent the next few years living, if it can be called living, inside the experience of deep trauma. A couple of years ago, he decided to work with Crystal Pite to unlock what had happened to him and as an artist give a voice and creative form to his experience. Listening to me, you might feel this is a private tragedy that you wouldn't want to witness at the theatre. But I sat in the 2,000-seat venue with not a seat unfilled and watched as audience members sat very still in those seats, mesmerised by this extraordinary work. It was painful, yes, but also moving and strangely redemptive. The Guardian said that Young's text moves far beyond the specifics of his own story, addressing to the experience of human suffering with raw and heroic brilliance, that it was astoundingly good, awarding it 5 stars. The co-creator of this work, Crystal Pite, leads a dance company called Kid Pivot, and as a choreographer, she has been universally acclaimed as one of the most talented and original artists to emerge on the global dance stage in the last decade. After a performance in the London season of What's on Stage, said that great art is, by definition, surprisingly rare, but on Tuesday at Sadler's Wells, I saw Betroffenheit, a piece that meets all the criteria. It's in Adelaide for 2 performances only.
From the beginning. Let's take you back. Just look at what happened. Let's take you back. Look at what happened. Let's take you back. Right. Look at this. Huh? Remember? Right. Okay, look at this. Huh? That's remember? Okay, look at this. Huh? Remember? Right. Okay, look at this. Huh? Remember? The past. Now forget it. Just forget it. Just forget it. Just forget it. Repeat that. Yeah. Let's go over that.
Elton John calls him the greatest songwriter on the planet, Rufus Wainwright is coming to Adelaide, to this theatre, the closing night of our festival, with a fabulous double bill. Supported by the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Guy Simpson, the first half of a symphonic visual concert based on Rufus's opera Prima Donna. Against the backdrop of a silent film made by Francesco Vezzoli, starring Cindy Sherman, wearing costumes once worn by Maria Callas, three great Australian operatic voices, Jackie Dark, Kanan Breen and Eva Kong, sing Rufus's gorgeous score. And then in the second half, Rufus comes on and sings a set from his legendary show, Rufus Does Judy, a recreation by Rufus of Judy Garland's 1961 Carnegie Hall concert. Rufus has vowed only to perform this concert once every 10 years, such are its demands on his voice. That he's half breaking this vow and performing it for us makes this an incredibly rare event.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain.
Rufus is the real deal. Complicité's The Encounter has been a worldwide phenomenon. Attending the 2015 Edinburgh Festival and listening to people chat in theatre queues, it was all anyone seemed to want to talk about, and I soon experienced why. The story that Complicité tells itself is extraordinary. Documented in the 1960s book Amazon Dreaming by Petru Popescu, it tells the true story of a National Geographic photographer who, arriving at the entrance to the Amazon River, sees a male figure up ahead and decides to follow him. His attempt to follow this man takes him into the jungle itself, and he soon realises that he doesn't know his way back. He has no choice but to keep following the figure running ahead of him. After some time, he finds his way deep into one of the most remote parts of the Amazon, and there he meets an Amazonian tribe that had had no previous knowledge or connection with the developed world. The story of what happens during this encounter is incredible enough, but in creating this piece, Complicité, a company known for breaking through established theatre norms, has worked with technology giant Sennheiser, and on the middle of the stage is a $10 million piece of sound equipment that uses binaural technology. At the beginning of the performance, audiences are invited to wear special headphones which somehow trick your brain into believing that someone has reached down to whisper in your ear. You would swear blind you can feel hot breath on your neck. And as the story of this Amazon encounter develops, the feeling of being in that humid jungle with mozzies flying around is like no other experience you have ever had. This is a game-changing work of theatre with legions of fans worldwide. You cannot miss this experience.
So if you put on your headphones...
And if I were to breathe in your ear, your brain would tell you that I was really breathing in your ear, and it might even start to get hot.
He didn't speak to me. I think he spoke to me without words. Just as Barnacle undid my spell by running counterclockwise, I could be the crack between here and there, the crack through which another time, our time, might flood.
You go to the caves at Lascaux and you see a sequence of 13 dots, and above the 13th dot is this huge, great big animal. To understand time...
This is applause. Exactly 410 years ago, an audience crammed into a tiny theatre in Mantua to witness the birth of an art form, opera. L'Orfeo by Claudio Monteverdi is the world's earliest and most enduring operatic masterpiece. Now you have the chance to hear it as they did in 1607. Concerto Italiano, one of the world's premier Baroque ensembles, are renowned for their interpretations of Vivaldi and Bach. Their 2014 recording of the Brandenburg Concertos was voted in Gramophone Mag the finest ever recorded. But performing Monteverdi forged their reputation, and over the past 3 years they have returned triumphantly to his greatest works. Led by Rinaldo Alessandrini, they visited Australia last year with the Monteverdi Vespers of 1610. Those astonishing performances in Perth and in Melbourne will never be forgotten. They perform in Adelaide for the first and only time on March 7. Make sure you're there. Peter and the Wolf. Who was your first narrator? Mine was Wilfred Pickles, and I would sit in front of our old Chrysler 3-in-1 stereophonic unit and listen to that fabulous old HMV recording crackling away until it was worn out. How lucky are your kids to have the marvellous Miriam Margolyes as their first narrator of Prokofiev's gorgeous tale. And added to that, Janacek's suite from his masterpiece, The Cunning Little Vixen, Borodin's Polotzian Dances from Prince Igor, and Britain's immortal Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, all with Nicholas Carter conducting the Adelaide Symphony and directed by our Naomi Edwards of Adelaide's own Patch Theatre Company. You don't want to miss it.
LEV are an Israeli dance company that are fast becoming one of the world's most talked about new dance companies. The company was started by Sharon Isle, an ex-dancer of Bat Sheva Dance, and Guy Bahar, a Tel Aviv rave party producer. And together they have created a genuinely unique and muscular choreographic language that, with an unforgettable company of dancers, blasts its energy from the stage. The company are presenting 2 works here, Killer Pig and OCD Love. I saw OCD Love in Romania and Neil saw Killer Pig in Detroit, and we rang each other immediately. We both had the same reaction. This was a company you just can't take your eyes off.
Now, it's very hard to define.
No.
Oh.
It's me now.
It's very hard to define.
1967 is a really special concert. It's staged for one night only from the past producers of the Black Armband concerts, a beloved part of recent festivals. 2017 is the anniversary of the 1967 referendum, and we wanted to celebrate that anniversary with a celebratory concert that acknowledges the pioneering work of a number of activists and their allies from the time. It's a night of civil rights songs, popular music from the era, and epic documentary footage that tells us what happened in 1967 and how it came to be that 90.77% of Australians agreed we should change our constitution to remove its racist clauses. Some of Australia's most celebrated Indigenous singers and artists, including Dan Sultan, Leah Flanagan, Ursula Jovic, Thelma Plum, and William Barton, will join a new generation of Indigenous singers, including Radical Sun and Adelaide, for a stirring concert of struggle, celebration, and thrilling moral energy.
It's hard to define this event. You sit there thinking they can't be serious. Then, oh, they are. And then, that's me up there. By the end, the audience is roaring like they're at the footy, squealing with pleasure, on their feet cheering. Jerome Bell, one of the world's great anti-choreographers, takes 15 people from the city where Gala is to be performed and rehearses them into a dance work where somehow they each find their moment of strength, of beauty, of grace. 15 people who, you would have to say can't necessarily dance in the way you would expect of the Adelaide Festival. 15 people of all walks of life, nationality and ability. It's an amazing synthesis. And along the way, it is absolutely hilarious. That's when you recognise yourself. The New York Times said, "Gala blurs the line between failure and success in performance as it suggests that theatre is community both on stage and off. It's a tour de force, wildly entertaining, and through the deliberate exploitation of conventional form, truly radical." This glorious young company have something that you will see repeated across a number of the shows in our festival, an absolute simplicity of means that produces a layered and rich humanity, a playfulness born of the declared reality of their technique. You watch the magic happen, and it's all the more magical for that. They create a real-time animated cinema using overhead projectors, shadow puppetry, silhouetted actors, live camera feeds, multi-channel sound design, and an on-stage musical ensemble. All of the performers are musicians. Their movies evoke the visual poetry of silent classics with the sophistication of Hitchcock and the contemporary Gothic of Tim Burton. They're doing 2 shows, both for families, Magic City from the book by Edith Nesbit of the Railway Children fame, and a kind of testament to the lilting melancholy of Roy Orbison and Patsy Cline, Lula Del Rey. If you're like me, you'll go to both.
One of the great discoveries in moving back to South Australia is to come to know the companies that have been creating really extraordinary work here over the last few years. Gravity and Other Myths are such a discovery. A local acrobatic troupe, the members have emerged from Circa, which is not Circa, Sir Kids, which has been around for many years, and they've all of a sudden become very hot property in European festivals. They're commanding a whole lot of attention for their particular brand of DIY acrobatics. We are so delighted to present the world premiere of their newest work, Backbone, which literally tosses around the idea of what strength is, where it comes from, and how it's measured. One overseas reviewer described them as Cirque du Soleil with a fistful of grit. Make sure you see them in their hometown before they are swept away to adoring audiences around the world. Portraits in Motion. I love this show. Volker Gerling has spent most of his life as a photographer, taking 8-second portraits with an old-fashioned camera that he turns into 32-frame flipbooks. His theory is that in the 8 seconds it takes to take the photo, the character of his subject is truly revealed. Rather than let his artworks languish in art galleries, he decided to take it to the people, walking 3,500 kilometres across Germany to show people his flipbook portraits, taking more pictures along the way. A few years ago, someone suggested he turn his works into a piece of theatre, and Portraits in Motion was born, an unassuming, idiosyncratic mini masterpiece which draws us into a series of sometimes hilarious, sometimes poignant, fragile human moments, all captured in his portraits. Living in the self-conscious world of the selfie, this is a deeply human work, resonant and unexpectedly affecting.
We need more videos. You get applause on videos. We asked the wonderful Anna Goldsworthy to create an immersive weekend of music to celebrate the magnificent new setting of the Eucharia Cultural Centre in Mount Barker, Ulrika Klein's great gift to the nation. The focus is Schubert and his restless traversal of inner and outer landscapes. There are 6 glorious concerts, all with Schubert, but also with Sculthorpe, with a new song cycle by Calvin Bowman, work composed at Eucharia by Deb Cheatham and by William Barden, who you heard playing this morning. Work for the Australian String Quartet, work for the Seraphim Trio. There will be panel discussions hosted by Anna and lunches and dinners, so you can just go there and let the experience take you away. It's for the whole of the middle long weekend. So, there's no video, it's okay.
Every brilliant thing. You're 6 years old, mum's in hospital, and dad said she's done something stupid. She finds it hard to be happy. You decide that you need to make a list for her of everything that's brilliant in the world, everything that's worth living for. It starts off, ice cream, number 2, kung fu movies, number 3, burning things. And so the list goes on. 2 things are true about this remarkable show. It will make you laugh so much your ribs will ache, and it will give you a remarkable insight into the legacy of depression and mental illness in a way that is frank, open, and unabashed. British actor James Rowland takes on the role that's earned a string of awards and nominations, including New York's Drama Desk Award. It's truly brilliant. No video. A few years ago, Lebanese-British artist Tanya El-Khoury wanted to share the stories of 10 Syrian men and women that had been murdered by the Assad regime in Syria. Public funerals and open mourning posed huge risks to the living as deceased family members are often buried in the backyards of Syria and in unmarked plots of land near the family home. Tanya and her team of researchers travelled to Syria to speak to a number of families about the life and death of their loved ones, and from this source material comes Garden Speak, 10 first-person narratives of their lives and their deaths. My experience with this installation is unlike anything I've been part of before. I was dressed in a raincoat that they provided, asked to remove my shoes, and was taken to a darkened basement where a large rectangular garden bed was installed. I was given someone's name on a card in Arabic, and after matching it with a headstone that was part of the garden bed, I lay down in the dirt until I could hear a voice coming from the soil. Digging into that soil, I lay down and lay my ear next to the voice coming from the earth. His story commenced. Garden Speak is a remarkable example of how artists can take the material from traditional documentary and reportage and create something unique, transporting, something that can make personal connections about this great catastrophe of our time. You will never forget this.
ضرب الخناجر وعلى حكم الندل
At some moment in my journeys last year, I walked across Rome and on the outskirts of the city found a rough theatre space packed with people thrilling to this wild, hallucinatory performance. The fabulous platinum-maned intersex punk diva Silvia Calderoni uses her own family home videos to blur fiction with her own life. There's a remix of Jeffrey Eugenides' novel Middlesex woven through here as Calderoni applies her fearless vulnerability to the exploration of identity. Part performance art monologue, part DJ set featuring music of the Smiths, Vampire Weekend, R.E.M., Talking Heads, Bowie and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, part erotic floor show, Middlesex is a visually ravishing, confronting, empowering hymn to androgyny.
Sono nato 2 volte, prima una cosa e poi l'altra. Alla nascita è stato stabilito che io sono F. I've got a new story now and it goes like this. I took my hand out of my pocket, up came a face. Siamo tutti fatti di molte parti, altre metà, a volte anche di animali o piante. Investi. How.
Toss away whatever you imagine classical chamber music is all about. On historical instruments, Italian trio La Gaia Scienza plays music from the 19th century as if it were written yesterday. Unaffected, dedicated to making the music live, performing Brahms and Schubert on the instruments for which they were written, gut strings, forte piano, with tremendous clarity and dazzling rhythmic energy. This historically authentic approach reveals new life in the music, like seeing colours for the first time in a freshly restored painting. They hardly ever tour, but they're coming to Adelaide.
In June 2012, a new work by remarkable Australian artist Lynette Woolworth was shown simultaneously in 14 countries across the world to coincide with the transit of Venus, a rare cosmic event that for hundreds of years has united even warring nations. Coral rekindling Venus is unique, part meditation, part revelation, part hallucination. Lie back under the giant projection dome of the Adelaide Planetarium and be surrounded by staggeringly beautiful coral reef imagery and high-resolution microscopic footage that is nothing like you've ever seen. An alien world with luminous colour that will take your breath away. There's no narration, no polemics, but the effect of your eyes and ears, with music by Max Richter, Gurumul and Anoni, among others, will ignite an outrage at the imminent disappearance of this teeming universe that will burn in you forever. In 1926, in the East End of London, Jewish shoemaker Ab Solomon doodled on the wage packet he gave to his wife Celie. Every week of their marriage, right up until 1982, Ab developed his art, drawing her a wage packet picture every week. These pictures chronicle Ab and Celie's family life, living between the 2 world wars, the surrounding social and political upheavals with great wit, warmth and blistering honesty. Danny Braverman's solo show tells the funny and moving story of how he discovered his great-uncle's lost art, hidden in dozens of dusty shoeboxes. What No Fish is an extraordinary story of love and art, of a marriage, of history and family that is played all over the world to an ever-growing legion of fans.
And when there was a bit of quiet, I opened up the box. And inside there was chaos. There were wage packets. And on the other side was this doodle. And then I noticed that he drew these fully formed pictures.
I first saw Restless Dance Theatre in their amazing show In the Balance in the recent Adelaide Cabaret Festival, and it was clear that here was another Adelaide treasure. Led by the director Michelle Ryan, Intimate Space is an experiential work of dance theatre set in the Hilton Adelaide Hotel. Audiences in groups of 10 will be guided from sophisticated bar and luxurious rooms to the nooks and crannies of back of house. Witness a tender and cheeky duet in a private room, then an urgent physical explosion in a loading dock. With an evocative soundscape by Jason Sweeney, challenging themes of visibility, authority, self-worth and relationships, the dancers ask you to uncover meaning in their play and delicately crafted movement. Thanks. Eighth Blackbird. If you were listening to a couple of weeks ago to ABC Classic FM when Steve Reich was composer on the pedestal, you might have heard his double sextet performed with incredible grace and precision by Eighth Blackbird, of Stevie's love of this unique and brilliant group. The closest thing to classical music, the classical music has to a rock band, described by the LA Times as a collection of super musicians, Eighth Blackbird revels in the work of living composers, played with love, virtuosity and passion. Brought to you by Musica Viva, this festival performance sees them delving into contemporary gems by US composers Muley, Dessner, Hen and Andres, alongside a world premiere by Australian composer Holly Harrison, one of the smartest, most dynamic contemporary classical ensembles on the planet, Chicago Tribune.
We're now going to take a tiny break, at which point you are going to hear about our two most beloved events, Writers' Week and WOMADelaide.
We introduce Miss Laura Crouch.
Hi everybody, good morning and welcome to Adelaide Writers' Week 2017. Given our longtime home is a historic garden, it's fitting that this year's program sees a slew of historical fiction, some of which I'm delighted to say featured on both the Booker Long and Shortlist. Booker Longlisted Ian Maguire will take us whaling in the Arctic, and there is nothing nice about this sea voyage, especially as there is a killer on board. Booker Shortlisted Madeleine Tien takes us back to the Cultural Revolution with her exquisite novel that has at its heart a story about three gifted musicians. Sebastian Barry takes us deep into the American West for the Indian Wars and then on to the great catastrophe that was the American Civil War, and it's a love story. Jane Smiley joins us with the final volume of her 100 Years trilogy, and while it's not really a historical novel, it's such a wonderful read, I mention it anyways. One of the great things about Writers' Week is it's a place to discover writers, especially those you've never heard of. Among the very best of our fiction writers are Yuri Harara, who explores the treacherous border between the US and Mexico. Alexandra Jambra writes a tender tale in the form of the multiple choice test Chilean students must take as they finish school. Chris Lee's characters are making the dangerous journey out of North Korea, and Sarah Taylor's are driving across the United States in search of the past. 2017 will be a big year for journalists, and it's wonderful to be able to welcome Patrick Coburn and Janine Di Giovanni as they talk to us about the Middle East, and in particular, the crisis in Syria and the rise of the Islamic State. We also welcome Ben Ehrenreich, who is writing about Palestine, and Mei Fong, with an extraordinary account of China's one-child policy, both its history and its implications for the future. This year will also see some wonderful nonfiction that isn't grim and focused on war. Paula Byrne introduces us to the youngest Kennedy, the glamorous Kick, who married the Duke of Devonshire. And for those of you who know me, you know that there's always a Mitford story at my every festival, no matter how tangential the tale. Alberto Manuel comes to us with a history of curiosity, and Amy Stewart hosts a luncheon as the drunken botanist with a passion for wicked weeds. The Samuel Johnson winner, Kate Summerscale, brings us the tale of a wicked boy, one who bumped off his mom before heading out for a rather long test match. And for kids, we have A Very Hungry Bum, An Umbrella of Love, and an underwater fancy dress parade. We also have A Teddy Who Transitions. True. I look forward to seeing you all in the garden in March, and it now gives me great pleasure to introduce Ian Scobie, the director of WOMADelaide.
Thank you, Laura. And well, it was 25 years ago that WOMADelaide was first presented by the 1992 Adelaide Festival to draw audiences and concert presentation out of the concert hall in a partnership forged by the festival's director, Rob Brookman, with the WOMAD organisation established 10 years earlier by Peter Gabriel and Thomas Bruman. That same year, to put it into context, Tim Winton's Cloud Street won the Miles Franklin. Prime Minister Paul Keating upset many by touching the elbow of Her Majesty the Queen. The Mabo decision was handed down by the High Court, and in March, white South Africans voted to end apartheid, while 25 years earlier, Australia voted to enfranchise Indigenous Australians. The doubling of these milestones of 25 and 50 years is something WOMADelaide next year will mark with its support of the Recognise campaign and a significant presence of Indigenous artists led by our national treasure Inachi Roach, who performed at the first festival with his soulful binding together of themes of family, friendship and country. And we're thrilled to present the WOMADelaide debut of Yolngu performer Garawa, whose deeply resonant voice celebrates his Arnhem Land home, while his contemporary revival of ancient songlines has seen him win 4 National Indigenous Music Awards. To help mark the quarter-century festival milestone, there'll also be 3 major works of scale. The Manganya Classroom is a joyous theatrical celebration of the Manganya musical traditions of Rajasthan, which features 35 young boys, each a repository of their heritage of song, dance and rhythm. And as the performance progresses, we become aware of how such traditions are overshadowed by the gods of progress. The French masters of fire installation, Carabosse, will return with a special work, The Exodus of Forgotten Peoples, created in response to the global migration crisis, taking as its starting point Article 13, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. This powerful immersive work will encourage the audience to journey through pathways of candle flames, projection and performance, where the Woodwalker clan are on the way to somewhere, perhaps better. In 1984, in its typical groundbreaking tradition, the Adelaide Festival first commissioned and brought the work of American composer Philip Glass to Australian audiences and the then often outraged critics. Glass is now acknowledged as one of the most influential music makers of the late 20th century, whose body of collaborative and cross-art form work has had an unprecedented impact upon the musical and intellectual life of our times. To mark the composer's 80th birthday year, the Philip Glass Ensemble will return to perform his extraordinary score live, accompanying the screening of one of cinema's most prescient masterpieces, Godfrey Reggio's Koyaanisqatsi Live, Life Out of Balance, an apocalyptic vision of the collision of 2 worlds, urban life and technology versus the environment it consumes. Since 1992, generations have discovered and savoured some of the world's most extraordinary artists, art forms and cultures at WOMADelaide, and regular elements of the program have emerged and evolved. The Planet Talks in Speaker's Corner provides a forum for temperate and lively discussions about the many issues confronting humanity's relationship with the planet, while early childhood memories are formed in the almost parent-free Kid Zone. I'd love to be able to show you images of all of the artists who'll be joining us, but there are too many for today. Just a small taste, however. Brazil's Bebel Gilberto, whose hypnotic new sound fuses the heritage of bossa nova with electronica and Brazilian beats. Inamoja from Mali, with her exotic mix of desert blues and brave hip-hop, as seen in her single Timbuktu, a defiant call of resistance, staring down the Taliban's pillage of her country. La Mamba Negra, a sassy, sexy 9-piece salsa orchestra from Colombia. From South Africa, the joyous, life-affirming a cappella voices of The Soil, whose blend of township harmonies, soul and gospel jazz is pure musical balm. And for a special festival milestone, how could we go past The Specials, who in 1979 led the revival of British ska with its mix of Jamaican blue beat and punk. Join us at WOMADelaide over this extraordinary long weekend at the heart of the Adelaide Festival as you cross the threshold into the lushness of Botanic Park to see and be part of the world's festival. It'll restore your faith. Thank you.
We just have a few more things.
4 more things to be precise. The last part of our programming presentation is to talk to you about our visual arts program, starting with Red. We've got 2 projects that we're presenting with the Art Gallery of South Australia, led by the brilliant Nick Mitsevich. And Red launches the Australian premiere and the directorial debut of Del Catherine Barton, one of Australia's leading figurative painters, now moving into short film. Del Catherine Barton is widely regarded for her distinct aesthetic and enduring obsession with fertility and the psychology of relationships. Featuring Cate Blanchett, Red is a surrealist cinematic offering and a savage tale of female power inspired by the mating rituals of the Australian redback spider. Neil and I have seen a few images from the collection and they're absolutely dazzling.
Marking 100 years since the death of Auguste Rodin in 1917, Versus Rodin bodies across time and space, places Rodin's work in conversation with modern and contemporary artists, including Louise Bourgeois, Anthony Gormley, William Kentridge, Barty Kerr, Rosemary Lang, Ugo Rondinone, and Cara Walker. This exhibition allows us to see the truly radical in Rodin, whose expressive vision, rejection of narrative, and embrace of process, seen in his experimental and seemingly unfinished surfaces, ignited an artistic revolution that changed the direction of sculpture. Curated with the intelligence, surprise, and brilliance that we have come to expect of the Art Gallery of South Australia, Versus Rodin features the gallery's significant collection of Rodin bronzes, the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. Rodin's work is brought into dialogue via a series of duets and duels with modern and contemporary art.
The Ocean After Nature and Countercurrents is a project that we have developed with Sam Stagg Museum and the indefatigable Erica Green. It features the work of 23 Australian and international artists exploring our relationship with and connections to the oceans through new media, sculpture, installation, painting and photography. And in fact, it was this exhibition that gave us the idea of bringing Lynette Woolworth's Coral Rekindling Venus to the planetarium. Having premiered in New York, The Ocean After Nature reflects on the complicated planetary effects that humanity and the oceans have on each other. In response, Sam Stagg have invited a number of local artists to probe the implications of this complex relationship for our region in the compelling Countercurrents.
Last one.
Yes.
The Yidaki, commonly known as didgeridoo, is the iconic sound of Australia. From the stringy bark forests of Arnhem Land to the concert halls of the world, the sound of Yidaki speaks of the landscapes and cultures of Australia and its first people. Yet the instrument's cultural foundations, contemporary meanings, and unique musical qualities are not widely understood. The director of the South Australian Museum, Brian Oldman, came to us with a wonderful idea. The museum possesses an extraordinary collection of Yidaki going back many decades. And so in this collaboration between the museum and the Yolngu people of Arnhem Land, these instruments are released to be seen, to be played, and to be heard. This exhibition is at the heart of the culture of this country.
Let's say the program finished. So that's our 2017 program. Thank you. We wanted to stay here though and just tell you about a couple of other initiatives that are part of our festival. One of these new initiatives that we're announcing for this festival is a special cheap ticket rush for those under 18. Back in the day, when I grew up in Adelaide, the Adelaide Theatre Passport Scheme meant teenagers could see lots and lots of shows throughout the year for $1 or $2. Companies used the unsold theatre stock from the nightly inventory, so it cost them nothing. It meant that there were generations of teenagers who were exposed to not just 1 or 2 festival shows, but lots, at that crucial time for teenagers when they are moving away from the influence of their parents and seeking experiences with their peers. The opportunity to see all kinds of theatre, to develop their taste and opinions, experience events with their friends, and forge habits of a lifetime cannot be underestimated. It had a massive impact on me growing up, and we wanted to make sure Adelaide teenagers now have exactly the same opportunity. So if you're a teenager or there's a teenager in your life, register now with the festival and we'll be in touch with how you can secure the cheapest seats possible when the festival rolls around. Fast Fine Dines is an Adelaide Festival initiative that helps audiences create a great evening out by partnering with the finest dining establishments and premium bars in the area, so you can go for great pre- and post-show meals, not having to worry about getting to the theatre in time. When you make your booking, you ask for the festival deal, and there's a whole lot of participating businesses on our website. They'll also offer you 10% off year-round.
Yep. And this year, we're also introducing a suite of new corporate hospitality options for the hottest tickets in town to our wonderful new festival club, the Palais, and at premium restaurants before seeing the show. So think about how you might want to use that idea. What's wrong?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, we want to acknowledge the friends of the festival. There's more than 500 of you who purchased literally thousands of tickets. There's already been a 30% increase this year in the number of festival friends, and it does make financial sense because friends are able to purchase tickets at a 15% discount with priority seating. Memberships are still available at the early bird rate of $145 per year, and if you can join today, then you can buy your tickets immediately after the launch at friends' prices. Yes.
The presentation is fragmenting slightly towards the end. But I think Rach and I should say how grateful we remain to the whole organisation of the Adelaide Festival, and particularly the indefatigable work of those two women, Judy Potter, our chair, and Sandy Forshaw, our Chief Executive Officer.
Okay. And now, as a special present for you all, we have a wonderful Palais cake.
Based on Robert Cousins' poster of the Riverbank Palais, which is a slightly landscape version of the poster that may well be available on limited release screen prints.
The real version won't look like a haunted house, be assured.
This beautiful cake, we're now going to cut. And
well, we might try and cut. I've actually just been warned that it's quite hard to cut. So,
we need two hands.
We're not getting married.
No, that happened years ago.
Oh, it's fine.
It's done. Leave it in. Leave it in.
Do I leave it in? Okay. Anyway.
If you're lucky enough to get a bit of one of the fireworks, they're edible.
So come and join us in the foyer immediately before you race to Bass to buy your tickets, and come and have a glass of champagne and a slice of cake with us.
See you.
So if you put on your headphones...
Dibidona, Kongobora, Sankalutani Filakono.